Captain Jake Morrison stood at the heart of the EDS Nightfall, staring into the sea of stars. To anyone else, the view might have been peaceful. But for Jake, the stars were not silent lights, they were watching eyes, witnesses to the secret humanity had kept buried for decades. The Nightfall was unlike any ship ever built. To the casual eye, it was just another vessel sliding through the emptiness of space, invisible against the endless dark. But every system, every line of code, every hidden reactor deep within its core carried the weight of an entire species' survival. This was not just a ship. This was humanity's answer to centuries of dismissal, humiliation, and quiet oppression. For 50 years, humanity had been nothing but a footnote in galactic history, a curiosity, a primitive species tolerated at the fringes of the Galactic Council. The Council's empire stretched across 3,000 worlds, their fleets spanning star systems, their trade networks binding the galaxy together like veins of power. When humans arrived, stumbling into interstellar travel with clunky metal vessels, the great powers of the galaxy laughed. The Council gave Earth a single mining colony, on the farthest edge of nowhere, and then promptly forgot they even existed. Humans were small. Weak. Amusing at best. Irrelevant at worst. The aliens had been wrong. Jake smiled as he glanced across the bridge. Every glowing screen, every humming console, represented something the galaxy could not imagine, the mastery of dark matter itself. While alien engineers spent centuries polishing the same shields and energy weapons, advancing only by fractions, humans had gone sideways, into realms the others dismissed as fantasy. Into the hidden universe beneath their universe. Dark matter. And now, humanity's silence was ending. At his console, Dr. Ryan Clark studied the scrolling data of the containment fields. To most species, the figures would look meaningless. To Ryan, they were the heartbeat of something miraculous. The Nightfall did not simply exist in space, it existed in multiple states at once. It was here, in normal reality. And it was not here, vanishing into another layer of physics the Council had never dreamed of probing. Their sensors could sweep a sector atom by atom and still miss the human warship sitting right beside them. No other race could do this. Because no other race thought the way humans thought. Containment stable, Ryan reported calmly, as if the ship wasn't doing the impossible just by existing. On the main screen, Admiral Lisa Kane appeared, her face lined with resolve. For 20 years, she had carried this burden. 20 years of hidden construction sites buried under asteroid belts. 20 years of research stations disguised as mining outposts. 20 years of feeding the galaxy a lie. That humans were nothing more than harmless farmers and bumbling traders. Now, all that patience was about to pay off. The order had come down from Earth Central Command. The test was authorized. The first strike could begin. Their target was not a Council fleet. Not yet. That would come later. Today's test would be against the Vorthan pirates, four-armed, brutish marauders who had spent the last 6 months preying on human cargo ships. The Council, of course, had done nothing to stop them. Human lives did not weigh heavily in their calculations. But humanity remembered. Humanity planned. And now, humanity would act. At weapons control, Commander Alex Turner checked the payloads one last time. The dark matter torpedoes were ready. Each one was a paradox made solid, slivers of unreality encased in human engineering. These weren't missiles. They weren't plasma beams. They were weapons that simply ignored the rules the galaxy had always relied on. Energy shields. They meant nothing. Bulkheads. They were irrelevant. The torpedoes would slip through defenses as if they weren't there, appearing inside enemy vessels before detonating. Impossible, the aliens would say. Unthinkable. And yet, they were real. Jake studied the tactical display. 12 Vorthan ships were converging, their formation loose, arrogant. They had hunted humans for so long without consequence that they couldn't imagine any scenario in which they were the prey. Soon, they would learn. The nightfall glided forward, unseen. To the Vorthons, the void was empty. To Jake and his crew, it was an ocean of opportunity. Attack position, Jake ordered. The ship obeyed with silence. Always silence. Back on Earth, Admiral Kane watched the unfolding engagement from her war room. For too long, humanity had lived under quiet oppression. Colonies raided. Ships destroyed. Families torn apart while the Council looked the other way. That time ended today. Colonel Maria Santos oversaw tactical operations aboard the Nightfall. She had studied the Vorthons for years, their patterns, their formations, their psychology. She knew what would break them. Fear. Fear of the unknown. The pirates still laughed over their calm channels, boasting of easy loot. They had no idea they were seconds away from becoming the first victims of humanity's new age. Admiral Kane's final order came across the comm. Authorization granted. Demonstration approved. Jake Morrison drew in a steady breath. His crew looked at him, their eyes carrying the weight of history. And with a calm voice, he spoke words that would echo for centuries. Fire all weapons. The torpedoes slipped into the dark. No light. No sound. No warning. On Vorthon sensors, nothing happened. No incoming missiles. No hostile signatures. And then, impossible fire. The first ship vanished in an instant, its hull blossoming outward as its core detonated from within. The shields had never even flickered. One moment a warship existed. The next, it was a graveyard of fragments. The pirates froze in disbelief. More torpedoes struck. 2 more ships erupted, tearing themselves apart as though their own hearts had betrayed them. The survivors panicked. On their bridges, captains screamed contradictory orders. Their weapons fired blindly into the void. Beams and bolts lit the darkness, but none touched the invisible predator among them. It was like being hunted by ghosts. Jake's eyes stayed cold on the screen. Alex Turner launched the second wave. 6 more torpedoes streaked toward targets unseen. One by one, ships died without ever glimpsing their killer. Within minutes, 12 Vorthon vessels had been reduced to drifting wreckage. Humanity had lost nothing. Colonel Santos studied the readouts, satisfied. 12 ships gone in under 5 minutes. Less than 10% of their arsenal expended. And most importantly, the Vorthons had no explanation. Panic was already spreading across pirate channels. Whispers of invisible enemies. Of ghosts in the void. And that was the true weapon. The nightfall moved on, vanishing back into its shadow state. Elsewhere across the stars, other human warships were preparing their own first strikes. The galaxies still thought humanity was small. Weak. They would learn. And soon, the Galactic Council itself would tremble. If you've made it this far, let me ask you something. What do you think humanity's greatest strength really is? Our technology, or our imagination? Let me know in the comments. And if you're enjoying this story of humanity's rise, don't forget to subscribe, there's much more to come. The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for 3,000 years. Their fleets patrolled the trade routes. Their laws dictated the flow of resources between thousands of worlds. Their word was law. And yet, for the first time in living memory, the Council felt fear. It began in whispers, unconfirmed reports from pirates and smugglers. Ships destroyed from within, fleets vanishing without a trace. The victims spoke of invisible attackers, of weapons that slipped through shields as if they were illusions. At first, the great powers dismissed the stories. After all, who believed pirates? But then the reports spread. Border patrols lost entire squadrons. Heavily armed convoys simply disappeared. And across the galaxy, strange rumors took shape, of ghost ships, of shadows that struck without warning. The Council could no longer ignore the truth, something new was stalking the stars. On Centris Prime, the jewel of Council space, an emergency session was called. Delegates from every major species filled the great assembly hall, their voices raised in anger and panic. Ambassador Helen Wright, Earth's quiet representative, sat in her modest seat, a calm observer among giants. For years, humanity's delegation had been treated as little more than a formality. A token presence. But today, she could feel the shift in the air. The mighty were unsettled. Their certainty cracked. Chancellor Vex of the Altarian Empire slammed his six-fingered hand against the podium. His normally purple skin had darkened with rage. 3 of our border fleets have been destroyed in less than a week, he roared. No enemy detected, no weapons tracked, only fire erupting inside our ships. This cannot stand. The Zephyrian delegate rose next, trembling with anger, or perhaps with fear. His crystalline body pulsed with unstable light as he spoke. Our beams are the most advanced energy weapons in known space. And yet, against this phantom enemy, our weapons strike only emptiness. What foe can pass unseen through shields and armor alike? No one had an answer. The assembly chamber dissolved into chaos, accusations flying like sparks. Some accused rival species of secret weapons programs. Others muttered of ancient powers, long asleep, now stirring again. And through it all, Ambassador Wright remained composed, her expression unreadable. She already knew the truth. Humanity's shadow fleet was moving exactly as planned. Far from the Council chambers, the EDS Nightfall drifted silently through the heart of Council space itself. Captain Steve Rogers, recently promoted after Jake Morrison's first victories, commanded the ship as it passed undetected through the most heavily guarded region of the galaxy. Around them, sensor arrays scanned constantly. Patrol ships swept every vector, probing for anomalies. The Council had deployed its finest equipment, its most advanced detection systems. And yet, the Nightfall moved unseen, like a whisper in a storm. In the intelligence bay, Dr. Emma Foster listened to intercepted transmissions. The fear was spreading faster than the attacks themselves. Commanders reported ghost signatures. Crews whispered of shadows watching them in their sleep. Some even claimed to hear phantom voices over comm channels. Emma smiled faintly. This was more than war, it was psychological warfare on a galactic scale. The Dark Matter Fleet was not only dismantling fleets, it was dismantling certainty. The alien powers had believed for millennia that their dominance was eternal. Humanity had shattered that illusion in a matter of weeks. Meanwhile, in the Council chambers, panic deepened. The insectoid delegate from the hegemony clicked his mandibles in agitation, describing the loss of an entire patrol near the Riel system. The ships had been found drifting, their hulls torn from within, their crews dead, but with no evidence of external fire. It was as though monsters had walked through their walls, he said, his voice shaking. Ambassador Wright received a private signal through her comm implant. Admiral Kane's coded message was simple: Phase 2 is underway. 20 ships now active across Council space. Helen allowed herself the smallest smile. Soon, the fear in this chamber would be indistinguishable from hysteria. The Corvellian trade minister took the floor, his scaled hands clutching at his robes. Our cargo haulers refuse to travel. Insurance companies are canceling coverage. Profits are collapsing. This is not merely war, it is economic annihilation. That, Helen thought, was the real battle. Fear was disrupting the foundations of galactic power more effectively than any fleet engagement. In orbit above Centris Prime, the largest military buildup in living memory began. The Council assembled an armada, 500 warships drawn from 7 species. Battleships, cruisers, fighter carriers. All arrayed in flawless defensive formation at the nexus point, where 12 major trade routes converged. It was a display of unity and might designed to send a message: the Council was still in control. But even the bravest captains felt unease. On board the hegemony flagship Eternal Dominion, Admiral Korath tried to maintain discipline. He was the most decorated commander of his age, the strategist who had never lost a battle. And yet, even he could not stop the whispers spreading through his fleet. Phantom readings. Navigation glitches. Communications filled with static. Crew members reporting shadows in their quarters. The fear was becoming a weapon sharper than any blade. Unseen, the human fleet was already among them. The Nightfall drifted less than 5 kilometers from Koratha's massive flagship. Close enough for her crew to see alien officers moving behind viewports. And yet, the ship remained invisible. Across the sector, 19 more human warships waited within Council formations. The EDS Phantom lurked inside the Alaran battle group, recording every shift of their shields. The EDS Voidwalker listened to Zepyrian commanders' panicked conversations. The EDS Shadowstrike positioned itself near the Council command vessel itself. They were ghosts among giants, waiting for the signal. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Kane reviewed the operation with cold precision. She had studied the psychology of every major species. She knew that fear of the unknown cut deeper than any weapon. By now, the fleets were already unraveling, long before the first torpedo had been launched. Her order was simple. Strike everywhere, at once. Dr. Ryan Clark monitored the dark matter containment systems aboard the Nightfall. 20 ships would fire simultaneously across 3 star systems. The calculations were elegant: maximum destruction, 0 risk. Commander Alex Turner prepared the torpedoes. Each was armed, silent, waiting. And then, authorization arrived. At Nexus Point, Admiral Korath was already losing control. Officers shouted conflicting orders. Sensor crews swore they saw phantom ships, only to watch the blips vanish. Systems reported impossible data: ships inside their formations, weapons primed, shields compromised. Koratha's mandibles clicked with frustration. He had the most powerful armada ever assembled. And yet, deep inside, he feared the truth. The enemy was already here. Watching. And then, the attack began. All across the system, human warships flickered into visibility for just an instant. Enough for the enemy to glimpse impossible shadows within their own formations. And then, fire. Dark matter torpedoes erupted, slipping past shields as if they were mist. They appeared inside battleships, detonating in engine rooms, weapons bays, command centers. Entire ships bloomed into fireballs before their crews even understood what had happened. The Eternal Dominion, pride of the hegemony fleet, was the first to go. One moment it was the largest ship in the system. The next, it was an expanding cloud of metal fragments and plasma fire visible across neighboring star systems. The Council's perfect formation collapsed into chaos. Ships collided as captains fled in panic. Weapons fired blindly, hitting allies more often than phantoms. Fighter pilots ejected into the void rather than face invisible enemies who killed without warning. Within 17 minutes, 500 warships, the greatest fleet in galactic history, was gone. And not a single human ship had been lost. Across the galaxy, silence spread. The silence of disbelief. The silence of power overturned. The Council's reign had ended in less than half an hour. Humanity's shadow war had become something greater, a revolution. Here's a question for you: what do you think would scare an advanced alien empire more, our weapons, or the fact that we can imagine what they can't? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story grips you, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the final chapter. The galaxy had lived under the shadow of the Council for 3,000 years. Its fleets were the hammer of order, its decrees the law of every star system. Civilizations had grown accustomed to obedience. The Council was inevitable, unchallengeable. And then, in less than a month, it was broken. The destruction of the Nexus Point Armada spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Entire species sat in silence as news feeds replayed the impossible: 500 warships, the pride of 7 empires, gone in under 20 minutes. There were no survivors. But what haunted them most wasn't the loss of ships. It was how it happened. No enemy detected. No fleets arrayed in opposition. Only sudden fire blooming from within their strongest ships. An invisible enemy, one that slipped past every shield, every sensor, every weapon. For the first time, the galaxy realized what humans had known all along: the Council wasn't immortal. On Centrus Prime, the Council chambers were silent. The delegates sat in stunned disbelief. Their voices, once so arrogant and commanding, were now whispers, frayed with fear. Ambassador Helen Wright sat in her usual seat, calm as ever. The others glanced at her now, not with contempt, but with suspicion, with dawning recognition. Finally, Chancellor Vex, his purple skin pale with terror, broke the silence. "We cannot fight them," he said. His voice, once a thunderous roar, was barely above a whisper. "Our fleets are ashes. Our weapons, useless. If we resist, we face extinction." The crystalline Empyrean delegate flickered dimly, light pulsing erratically. "Then what is left to us? Surrender?" Helen Wright stood. Her calm presence filled the chamber. "You are asking the wrong question," she said. Her voice was steady, measured. "The question is not what remains for you. The question is whether humanity will allow the Council to remain at all." The chamber erupted into chaos, delegates shouting, some in anger, others in despair. But beneath their noise was the undeniable truth: humanity held the galaxy in its hand. Far from Centrus Prime, the EDS Nightfall returned to Earth. Its dark hull descended through the atmosphere like a shadow returning home. Crowds gathered on the surface to greet the ship. For the first time in 500,000 years, Earth was not a subject of empires but the master of its destiny. Captain Steve Rogers, Commander Alex Turner, Dr. Emma Foster, and Dr. Ryan Clark stepped out to a sea of cheers. They were not just soldiers now, they were symbols. Proof that humanity had not only survived oppression but had risen above it. Admiral Lisa Kane stood on the command balcony, watching the celebration below. She did not smile. Victory, to her, was only the first step. Now came the harder task: shaping what humanity would become. Because power, once taken, demanded responsibility. Back in the Council chambers, Helen Wright delivered humanity's terms. There will be no more tribute. No more forced labor. No more decrees from Centrus Prime, she said. The Council as you have known it is finished. Delegates hissed and muttered, but none dared challenge her. They had seen what happened to those who resisted. In its place, she continued, there will be a new order. A council of equals, where every species has a voice, but none a whip. Humanity will oversee this order, not as conquerors, but as guardians. If you resist, we will know. If you conspire, we will see. And if you strike at us, you will vanish as surely as your fleets have vanished already. Silence followed her words. And then, slowly, one by one, the delegates bowed. Not in respect. Not in friendship. But in recognition of reality. The age of the Council was over. The age of humanity had begun. But humanity knew something the others did not. For months now, the Harari, an ancient, neutral species that had long remained silent, had been watching. They had warned humanity in whispers. The galaxy is not as empty as you think. There are older threats. Patient threats. Ones even the Council feared to wake. Admiral Kane studied those warnings with grim attention. If humanity's dark matter weapons could tear apart the Council, perhaps they could defend against whatever lay beyond. But she also knew that brute force alone would not be enough. The real advantage humanity possessed wasn't just technology. It was imagination. The ability to see the unseen, to conceive of strategies no alien mind had ever dared. That was why they had triumphed. That was why they would endure. On Earth, the celebrations continued for days. Across the galaxy, oppressed species whispered the same words, "The Council has fallen. Humanity has risen." Some celebrated humanity as liberators. Others cursed them as new tyrants. But all agreed on one thing: the galaxy had changed forever. In the quiet of her quarters, Ambassador Helen Wright composed her report to Admiral Kane. The Council bows. Their fleets are gone. Their power broken. Humanity stands at the threshold of a new age. The others see us as monsters, as saviors, as shadows they cannot comprehend. Let them. We will be all these things and more. Because in the darkness of the galaxy, someone must stand watch. Someone must remember what it means to fight when no one else will. She paused, then added one last line. And we will not stop, because we know what sleeps beyond the stars. In the depths of intergalactic space, far beyond the reach of any empire, something stirred. Structures older than any species awakened, vast and alien. Beings that the Council had once feared to even name. The galaxy had always believed the Council was the greatest power. They were wrong. Humanity had risen just in time. Because the real war was only beginning. What do you think? Will humanity be remembered as liberators, or as the new tyrants? And what could those ancient powers be, the ones the Council feared more than anything? Drop your theories below, and subscribe so you don't miss the next story.